Welcome to Aging in Style with me, Lori Williams. I'm an optimist by nature, and I believe you can follow your dreams at any age. My grandmother's journey with dementia ignited a passion in me to work with seniors. I've spent the past 13 years learning about seniors and aging. In my mid-50s, I followed my own dream and founded my company, where I use my expertise to help seniors locate housing and resources. On this podcast, we cover all aspects of aging. Join us each week to meet senior living experts and inspirational seniors who are following their dreams. The fact is, we're all aging, so why not do it in style? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Aging in Style with Lori Williams. Today we are going to tackle a topic that is a kind of a hot potato one. We are talking about driving and when it's time for seniors to give up driving, and how do we as adult children have that conversation? And this is one I run across frequently when I'm speaking with families. A lot of times the adult children, they just don't want to have that conversation. Who really wants to tell, their dad that it's time to stop driving? Nobody wants to have that conversation. And unfortunately, because we're so afraid to have that conversation, there are seniors who are driving out there that may have dementia, can get lost, can cause an accident. I've, through the years heard so many stories. There was one lovely lady who drove to the grocery store and just stopped her car right there in the, middle before she got to the parking lot, just kind of stopped and got out of the car, left it running and went into the grocery. That's just kind of a mild situation that I've heard. I've heard throughout the years all kinds of stories. So let's talk about it today. Let's talk about when we know that our parents should stop driving. What are some signs, and how to start that conversation. So, first of all, it's very common to become worried about aging parents' driving skills as they get older, and it's hard to have that tough conversation. And the reason it's tough is this is kind of like the last big holdout, especially for senior men, because driving is such a symbol of their independence and who they are as men. So it's really, I think, extra hard to take the keys away from our older gentlemen. So you're kind of coming up against that loss of independence. And that is, the big reason why they're going to fight you on giving up driving. And I do want to say, simply because you're 80 or 90 years old, it doesn't mean that you need to stop driving. It's just if you have certain signs and, things going on that make driving dangerous for you, because I have many senior friends who are in their 90s and still driving well. So the big question is, let's start with, how do you know that your parents need to stop driving? Odds are you're not, if you ask them, do you think you should stop driving? They're going to say no. So what are some things that make driving riskier as we age, as our bodies are aging? So what we're going to look for are like physical changes. And physical changes that happen that make driving more difficult are some pretty obvious ones, like decreased vision. So issues with their vision, having slower reflexes that make it harder to, see, hear, and respond to other cars or people walking, pain or stiffness. So it makes it hard, like if they have limited mobility due to pain and stiffness in their neck, to turn to look. You look over your shoulder to change lanes. And if you are stiff and in pain, you can't do that. So you don't have that range of motion. Leg pain or weakness in legs, which makes it harder to switch between the gas and the brake pedals or to press hard enough. Cognitive changes that are going to slow reaction time down, makes it harder to, merge lanes, or if they're on the highway. And my goodness, if you live here in Dallas, I'm not ashamed to say that I am myself fearful of some of the highways here, because people are going so fast and switching lanes. And I can't imagine if I was 80 years old, I certainly wouldn't want to be driving on, some of the highways around here. So multitasking gets harder. So, there's so many things involved with driving, people slamming on the brakes in front of you, road signs, situations happening with the road work or whatever. So those are just kind of things that, as we're aging, could become an issue. So what are the warning signs that you're going to look for to see, is this becoming a problem for my senior loved one, for my mom or my dad or my grandma or grandpa? So there's 7 signs to look for. These are them. So 1, Look at their car. Are there fresh dents and scrapes on the car? Look to see maybe their mailbox or their fence or garage. Has anything been hit? The garage door. Just kind of look, be aware. 2, have their driving habits, have they changed? Are you noticing, these would be red flags. So are they like blowing through stop signs when they were normally a very cautious driver and stopping and being safe? Do they change lanes now without even kind of looking at the blind spot? They just are just kind of on a wing and a prayer, just changing lanes on, have they always worn their seatbelt and now they're not buckling up? Are there just some things that you're noticing is not how they normally would have driven in the past? Are they really straining to see? Are they having issues with, say, macular degeneration or glaucoma, and they really can't see as well as they should be to be driving? Those are some things to look for. So number 4 is, has driving become stressful, confusing, exhausting for them? Some things to look for might be, are they getting lost in, familiar areas? Maybe they've lived in an area for 40 years and suddenly they can't make their way home from the grocery store that they've driven to a million times. Are they having a hard time backing their car up or turning it around? Having trouble seeing like traffic signals, road signs, things like that. Mixing up the gas and brake pedal. And you know what, guys, that just happened here at my house a couple of weeks ago. A lady was coming over to purchase a table, and my husband was in the garage, and she had backed up, and she wasn't, I think she was maybe in her 60s, so that's not really an older lady, but she had come to a stop and then hit her gas pedal, my husband right behind her car, and just floored it. Thankfully, he was thrown out of the way and she hit my house and did a lot of damage to my house. But when I was kind of researching for this topic and looked at the mixing up gas and brake pedals, I just went, yes, I'm currently living that, as is my house. But it does happen. Other things, signs that should raise concern for you is maybe having road rage when, sweet little mom never had road rage. Now she's honking at other drivers, maybe sending them an unfriendly hand gesture, not being able to tolerate distractions, like really, really having to focus and becoming frustrated, or if you're trying to talk to them, they can't multitask, they cannot do both. 5 of the 7 to look for, they're having close calls. Maybe they've narrowly missed some accidents. That's, a good sign that their skills are starting to deteriorate. Number 6, driving at night is making them nervous. Because a lot of times as we get older, and I'm 57, and I'll tell you, I sometimes have a little trouble seeing at night, just the way the lights kind of reflect that glare kind of thing. It makes it harder for me to see. So I can imagine if you're, 89 years old, it probably gets much worse. So, you're going to watch if they're nervous driving at night, or I don't know that I agree that this is really a sign that it's time to give up, because a lot of seniors choose not to drive at night because it is harder to drive. So yeah, I'm getting all defensive for myself. Like, yeah, it's okay. 57. I don't like to drive at night. Number 7, other people are scared to ride with you. So if you're, friends of your parents or maybe their grandkids are afraid to ride with them, that's a sign that maybe it's time to take the keys away. And I've told this story before, so you may have heard it on one of the other podcasts, but my grandfather, I remember riding with him back like in the early 1980s. I was about probably 16 or so. And he had one of those huge boats of a car, that they had those, giant cars back then. And we're just flying down these little narrow streets in New Orleans where everyone in the residential areas, they park on the street. So it's like this very narrow area. And he's just, flying down the street. And I probably didn't even have a seatbelt on now that I think of it. And he's telling me the whole way there, oh, I almost had an accident over here and I hit a lady at the grocery store the other day. And he's telling me all these like near misses and fender benders that he had. And I'm thinking, dear Lord, let me survive this. This man really doesn't need to be driving. And that one resonates with me. Other people are getting scared because I was scared. So the bottom line really is any risky behavior, anything that you see, it's really best to just be proactive and have that conversation with your mom or dad or your grandpa, grandma. It's just better all around. So I was looking for some resources that maybe are available, and I found something through AARP that they actually have a free online seminar that you can go look through. And it's all about preparing for the conversation, to have that conversation with your senior loved one. And it's called We Need to Talk, which I thought was, probably a good title. Anyhow, it gives just tools and tips on starting kind of like a casual conversation about driving, kind of opening that line of communication and engaging them, having them do sort of like a self-evaluation, and then just making sure that they're safe to be driving. So I'm going to put this, I have a link to it that I will include so that if you do need to have that conversation, you can go and get some good tips through this free online seminar. And there's also tons of information out there if you Google, is it time to give up the keys? And there's a lot of good articles that have been written because it is a extremely hot topic that comes up, and rightfully so. There's a wealth of information out there. So I hope this has given you a little food for thought and some tips and ideas, to look for when it comes to driving and your senior loved ones and opening up that conversation. As always, thank you for joining today's podcast, and you can find more information on our website, which is LoriWilliams-SeniorServices.com, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.